Two families of Syrian refugees, 12 people in total, are arriving in Texas today. The state was the first to sue the U.S. government to prevent the refugees from entering the U.S. The White House says no state has the authority to block refugees. North Carolina Governor Patrick McCrory is with me now. Governor, I know you say President Obama should have addressed the refugee crisis last night when he spoke from the Oval Office. What opportunity did he miss?
Well, first of all, he missed the opportunity to include in his strategy working with governors and state and local officials in public safety. Because when there is a Homeland Security breach, in 90% of the cases, it's going to be a local police officer or a local law enforcement or state law enforcement officers who's either going to prevent that attack from occurring or respond to the attack after it's occurred, like we saw in California. So he did not mention one time in his speech the strategy of working with each of the governors whose responsibility is, including the Guard, including state highway patrols, including their
So, Governor, just to be clear, you didn't hear anything from the administration, from any member of the administration?
None. And his speech did not mention anything about it. It mentioned only working as though this is a Washington problem. No, when there's a breach in Homeland Security, it becomes a state and local problem because we're the people who are having to respond to the violence, and we're often the people who see the activity before it even occurs or catches the Homeland Security breach. So, and we've got to be a part of the team.
Governor, just to play devil's advocate, what if I say we understand it takes 3 to 5 years for refugees to be screened? That is to say, the people who are arriving in Texas today, this process started something like 4 years ago. Do you trust the system, or do you say when you see an event in San Bernardino, no one can trust the system?
Well, first of all, how can you trust the system when even the president last night mentioned that there's a problem with visas? And if there's a problem with the U.S. visas, think of the problem we're having in some of the Middle Eastern countries in which there is no embassy. How do you do a background check on an individual in which there is no embassy to do the background check?
Or if it's an unfriendly country and unfriendly government to us.
So we have a tough time doing background checks on U.S. citizens at times, much less foreigners, especially where they do not have an embassy and there's a civil war going on at this point.
Governor, what is the one thing that you would have advised the administration had they reached out, to your point, as it feels like someone should have, and said, hey, if we're going to do this, what's the best way to do it? What would be your number one concern?
For example, with refugees, tell us who's coming, where they're going, when they're coming, what their names are, what their backgrounds are. Right now, there is little or no communications with state officials on refugees coming from countries in which there is terrorist activity, especially ISIS. None. Zero.
Governor, I want to ask you.
That's one of the most miscommunications and the lack of knowledge and collaboration between the federal and state government has got to improve.
Governor, Donald Trump's campaign put out a statement that says that the U.S. should bar all Muslims from entering the country until, and I'm going to quote the statement, the terrorist problem is under control. What is your take on such an extreme position?
I don't agree with that. I agree with making sure we do a legitimate background check to see if there's any involvement of that individual in potential terrorist activities. And right now, I don't have real confidence in the government doing that, especially in countries in which there is no embassy. And that's what we're asking for cooperation with the president, is let the governors and our own Homeland Security organizations in each of the 50 states communicate to us. Let us know. We found out through the newspaper when the president decided to go with from 2,000 to 10,000 refugees coming from Syria. We were not told that.
Well, communication and courtesy go a long way in leadership, Governor. We take your points.
Not only that, but it makes a difference in our own investigation and in our own database. If we see suspicious activity, we then know who we're observing and what their real names are and where their backgrounds are. And right now, that communication is going on with the nonprofits in each of our states, and nonprofits aren't in the security business.
Governor, thank you for the time. We share your concern. Governor McCrory joining me there. He is the governor from North Carolina.